All right, we are here once again with the women's ice hockey captains, Jessica Strack, Bridgette, Prentiss, Delaney, Guimont. Week 2 was a bye week. Week 3 is post coming up this weekend. We'll talk about them in a little bit. Jess, I want to start with you on the UNH game and talk about goaltending a little bit. Emmy, a program record 53 saves in that game. What specifically do you see out of her as a goaltender that she was doing out there? Obviously, part of that is that so many shots were on her net. But what did you see from her to stop 53 shots?
I think it felt like way more than 53 shots. I feel like she had at least 80. But I think just out of her, she's always calm and collected, and you don't really see that her diving around or her looking like she's scrambling, because when that happens, now the D starts scrambling, it kind of just becomes like a madhouse. So if she's kind of cool in the net, that just like she was at UNH, it creates a sense of calm around the net, which is what we needed when we were playing a team that we didn't know what to expect out of them or ourselves. So she was just a rock and a backstop in the net for us.
All right. Delaney, question for you about the ice surface. Bigger ice surface at UNH, the Olympic size, especially as a defenseman trying to deal with the team speed of UNH. What was the approach to try to counteract that on the bigger ice surface?
Well, Coach knew, he prepared us that the ice was bigger than what we were used to before we got there, but honestly I don't think anything can really prepare an extra 7.5 feet of ice until you actually play on it. And I think that we took it pretty well. Obviously UNH does have that advantage because they practice and play there every single day, but for a team that had their first game together of the season, being Division I and being on an Olympic-sized ice, I think that we capitalized on it pretty well. The D zone was definitely a little harder because you had more ice to use, but they were very fast, and I think that we moved our feet and kept up with them great, and it gave us just that little advantage in the offensive zone too.
All right, Bridgette, for you, something I think we've all talked about off the camera since that game. There was a lot of build-up to that game. It's the first Division I game. It's going to play UNH. You know, everybody's worried about their size, their speed, et cetera, et cetera. And then after the game, when you get a chance to decompress and look back at it, you know, it was just a hockey game. So how did your expectations compare with what you guys saw out there?
I think at first, when the schedule came out over the summer, we were a little nervous. You know, UNH, our first Division I game, good team, they're fast, they're great competition. But I think after the game, we realized what we can do and how we can keep up with teams that are better than us. And, you know, if we just play our game, I think we'll do well against other D1 teams.
So Dartmouth and Maine coming up later in the year, kind of lessons you can learn from the UNH game to take into those games?
I think that if we stick to our systems, like Coach kind of said after the game and during the game, we'll be fine. But I think that we have a good base after playing UNH to see where we're going to be at after we play Dartmouth and Maine.
All right. Delaney, for you, I want to go behind the scenes a little bit as we do some of these over the course of the season here. Paired with Steph Caban in the opener, freshman defenseman, you're a senior. What do you guys do to work out your chemistry on the ice? How do you build that over such a short period of time to start the season?
Well, in practice, so we normally have 7D rotating, but we actually had 6D the first week because one was injured. And so in practice, we played with everyone. We just rotated during different shifts and stuff during every drill and just kind of got a feel with each other. I mean, it's kind of hard only having a week, but sometimes people just like click together, and she was really easy to play off of and read, and it really helped having her be really strong and reliable to play on. But I didn't see it as, oh no, I'm going out with a freshman. It just felt like I was going out with anyone else, and we were very lucky as D to have the freshmen step in and be such impact players right away.
So if you're rotating through partners in practice, does it make it that much easier when you go on the ice? It doesn't matter. If your partner gets a late change, for example, it doesn't really matter who you're out there with?
Yeah, it made it easier in practice at the beginning because Coach could kind of see who we clicked with. But then in a game situation, if we're all switching up or someone gets a penalty or someone gets stuck out there, it's not like, oh my God, I've never played with you before. How's this going to go? It's like, oh, okay, we can go out together. The D are really fluid, and it helps a lot.
All right. Jess, back to you. Kind of an awkward start to the schedule here. You've got a game, then a week off, now 2 games this week, and then another weekend off next week. So it's almost like you started the season and now you're having your preseason practice. So kind of how have you guys approached the last week of practice? What do you expect to work on these next couple weeks where there's not as many games?
I think when when we have something like this, it gets us right into the season. We immediately have to go and compete. You don't really get that complacency feeling because even though we have longer off, we still have to be ready to play a game. But it gives us that time to work out systems and conditioning. So like this past week, because we didn't have a game on the weekend, we did some more battle drills, more mini games, and kind of got to see how different lines played together. And then it gives the coaches a chance to see who they might want to try out this weekend for post, and now they get to go back and get another about almost 2 weeks for them to keep playing around. So it gives them a way to see how we do, test it out in a game situation. If it's not quite clicking, go back and keep playing with it. And it gives us a chance to really get into the season while still having goals to work for every other weekend while we get into the flow of it.
Bridgette, we'll wrap things up with you and we'll talk about Post a little bit here. Post coming up this weekend, 2 home games for you guys. Post, a team that has traditionally struggled to compete in this league. I know you guys have watched a little of them on video, and you see them improving a little bit from last year. So what are you looking for heading into this weekend?
I think as a team we can't take things lightly. Post, again, like you said, is a team that we've been able to beat every time we've played them. But after watching their games that they had this weekend against St. A's, they look like a better hockey team than what they were. So I think that we need to play above them and not down to their level, and I think we'll be fine.
All right, and as we did last week, we'll wrap this up with kind of a question to let you guys showcase your personality a little bit. We're going to talk jersey numbers. Every athlete has a favorite jersey number, and they've usually got a story behind it. I don't know whether you all are wearing your favorite numbers here or not, but let's talk about jersey numbers. Which one would you prefer to wear? Which one are you wearing here? Why are you wearing them? Why did you start wearing them?
So when I first started playing hockey, I was number 8 because I was upset. For some reason, I was obsessed with the NASCAR driver Dale Earnhardt Jr. So I was number 8. And then as I grew up, it was Alex Ovechkin's number, so it was so hard to get. And I was like, wow, this number's not even cool anymore. So I switched to 18 because it was my big cousin's number, and then I started really liking it, and ever since I've gotten 18.
That was an extremely New Hampshire start to that.
I don't have quite as good story as the lady, but I was late to my first travel game. And I was last to pick jersey numbers, and it was between 24 and 33, and I picked 33, and I've been 33 my whole life.
So when I got to high school, we only had a handful of goalie numbers. We had one, I think it was 29, 30, and 31. One was already taken, so I picked 31 because I just kind of liked the number, and then ever since then I just haven't changed it. So when I got here, we actually didn't have a 31, but Coach was getting all new jerseys, so I asked if there was a way for us to get 31. Otherwise, I think I would have been 32, if I'm thinking back to what he said, but he was able to get it, so I...
Goalies never get a lot to choose from.
No, we kind of have our set numbers, unless you're in the NHL, then they can pick whatever they want.
That's the women's hockey captains. That's Jess, Bridgette, and Delaney. They're home this weekend, 7 o'clock Friday night, 6 o'clock on Saturday night. We'll see you out there. Thanks, ladies.
Woo!